Hey, everybody. Really great to have you joining us this morning. Please grab your breakfast and sit at the table that is interesting to you. We have 4 topics this morning of what you'll discuss at your tables over your lovely breakfast. And so take a look at those table topics and sit based on those. So we'd like to introduce ourselves as your facilitators and talk about the community breakfast this morning and the topics we'll be discussing together. So I'm your host, Amber Huffman with Google.
And I'm Melissa Daniels. I apologize in advance. I have laryngitis, so you're going to have to struggle or bear with me on the shaky voice. But nice to meet you.
So Melissa is awesome, but yes, she's been so awesome, she's lost her voice. So first Melissa and I wanted to give a little bit of context on open standards and open source and open ecosystems as we dive into these community topics. So my background is leading a lot of open standards such as NVM Express and Open Compute Project and the like. So what I found in the open standards that I see thriving at RISC-V International is a few things. One is, how do we focus on the win-win together, right? How do we compromise and get the best thing for each of us? How do we focus on simplicity? Because obviously simplicity often trumps a lot of things. And then how do we always give each other best intent? Because, I mean, there's a lot of interesting community topics. Compressed instruction is one of them, right? But how do we work together in best intent and figure out the best thing for the RISC-V community and how we move forward? And I've been having a great time working with RISC-V International, and also we've created this RISE Consortium RISC-V software ecosystem for how we help accelerate software. If you want to learn more about RISE, there's a talk at 11:50 a.m. this morning on that as well. Now with Melissa on open platforms.
And I have spent my career working on building open platforms focusing on software. So everything from building out the Yahoo Developer Network to platforms like Chrome OS, OpenWeave, and Thread, the Works with Nest developer program, and other things. And now I'm currently working on Fuchsia and also RISC-V efforts. So a winding journey of making sure that hardware and software both remain open and accessible to developers, but also embracing community standards that say, how can we make sure that these opinions from everyone in the world are represented and reflected in the stacks that we build? So this goes kind of hand in hand with Google's views on open source. And again, I apologize for my voice. But Google has these core principles for open source that we really believe in. Those are citizenship, inclusivity, diversity, and governance. And these are some of the really nice thing that Amber and I realized when we looked at this is that some of the community topics that you see at each of your tables for RISC-V that we're looking at tie so nicely to this. Like, how do we think about supporting projects? How do we make sure that people are funded, that they can participate, they can expand the work that they're doing? How do we make sure that the voices that matter, which is all of your voices and more, are represented in these conversations, are represented in the pushes and the CLs and everything else that we see along the way? Because oftentimes we can end up with a bifurcated system where there's people who are writing the code, but then people who are using the code, and they may not meet. And then thinking that ties closely in with governance. How do we think about these goals holistically and make sure that they're applied and we can find a way to clearly move forward?
So now what we wanted to turn this over to you, so we don't want to talk at you for breakfast. We should enjoy your breakfast and enjoy a vibrant conversation. So what you'll find is if you arrange yourself based on table topics, there's 4 table topics. One is on building community. So how can you help encourage others to contribute, learn, and collaborate within the RISC-V community? The second one is working together. So how can RISC-V more inclusively support the diverse and distributed stakeholders in this project? Missing voices, consider what are groups or people that you think are missing from RISC-V, and how could we better include them or attract them? And then sharing knowledge. What resources are you aware of or can you share that would help others build, contribute, or learn? So we'd like to open this up to you for, basically 25 minutes or so of discussion. And then what we'd like to do is pass around the mic by table and have us talk about some themes. So building community themes, working together themes, and missing voices and shared knowledge, and just capture your takeaways so that we can learn and see how we can improve the community even more together and have it thrive. So with that, Melissa and I will quit talking at you and enjoy your breakfast and your discussions.
And each of your tables will likely have a Googler plant too. So if you have any questions about any of these principles,
they're friendly Googlers, we promise.
We promise we don't bite anything.
So.
But enjoy the conversation and we'll circle around.
Everybody, thank you so much for everybody coming in today. This is amazing. So we were going to try to start getting some themes per table, if that's possible. So Melissa's going to walk around to each table and try to get what were some top of mind. So we're trying to go for, say, 90 seconds per table of just 2 or 3 things that were top of mind from that table. So Melissa, I'll let you take it away.
All right. All right. So do we have any volunteers first, or would you rather be? All right up front.
Yeah. So what we were discussing here, we're on a sharing knowledge table, and I think 2 of the things that we kind of hit upon really quickly in terms of sharing information is we know that, companies or organizations have kind of their own source of knowledge, and it would be kind of useful if RISC-V International had some way to index what other people know so that it's an easier way to find that kind of information. And then I think another big second that we hit upon was hackathons. People who have knowledge, if we had a regular series of hackathons not everybody can make them in person, so in person and or virtually where people can get into a room and share information, that would be very useful.
Thank you, and thanks for being their first volunteer. I didn't have to voluntold anyone. Who's up next? All right. Let's see. Run around.
Thanks, Melissa. Our table had a theme of working together, and we lucked into having a note of people who worked on the LLVM project. And so there's a 20-year-old open source collaboration project with some really great history and experiences. And they said there are positive things in the culture of LLVM. They also had some observations about possible rough seas that we should think about. One they mentioned is that LLVM has adopted a code of conduct in recent years. I don't personally know whether RISC-V has a code of conduct. We do? Okay. But the adoption was rocky and caused some members to quit. And we wondered a little bit, what does it mean if codes of conduct tend to be relatively, please don't be mean. But that seems like a thing which helps to ensure that there are standards in how our community operates. And so that we have one is great. That people might leave over such things is concerning. And there's also an observation about, certainly my employer, Google, has a bunch of diversity initiatives, some of which are help people who haven't learned how to code. And some of those also intersect with targeting underrepresented groups and helping those people to code. If it's Google, then it's a corporate sponsor, and what the company does is one thing. If it's the foundation, like LLVM Foundation or RISC-V Foundation that does that, that begins to verge into areas where some people object to that kind of funding. Say there are different ways to assess merit or underrepresentedness, and that can be an area of let's tread carefully in doing it, even if we decide that we're going to go ahead and do it. So it seems like there are known pitfalls in supporting working together, and we should be aware of them and follow other people's experiences and advice on them.
Great, thank you. Who wants to go next? All right. Let's get it over with the right phrase.
So hello, I'm the selected person on our table. So our topic is missing voices, and we kind of gravitated towards 2 key areas. So there's a little bit of the people voices, some obvious things like just observing the conference, sort of demographics. Do we have a lot of women or not? And then there was a little bit of conversation on how do we make more inclusive teams within companies that are working in the RISC-V space. How do we have more members that are on the LGBTQ+ community? And how do we encourage them to participate and actively join sort of the conversation, whether it is to share in conferences like this or publish papers and essentially help develop their voice through that mechanism. And then there was a little bit more on the less people-centric, but it drives it. So it's on components availability and how if we make things a little bit cheaper, can we reduce the price point? Can then we make it more accessible for students, other members that may not have that many resources to access? The same with board availability. If they're more available, then more people can join the general conversations. And then how can we start shifting this a little bit to be less US-centric and include other voices so that some of the larger communities are not just centralized here and we get some of those additional voices. Curious on the table if I missed anything or, no? All right, okay.
Great job getting it done. And who's next? Who wants to volunteer? We haven't heard, I think, from the blue table or community. Or Noah, here, we'll jump to you. My strategic Google plants.
Thanks. Yeah, a couple of interesting directions at our table. One, just reflecting on how global some of the work is around here and teams. Oh, we are working together table. That was the theme here. And so, we had experiences with folks who were working with teams across the globe. But then that presents challenges in, educational pipeline, making sure that there are folks who are familiar with RISC-V and have experience in the areas that we're interested in. Another kind of topic that came up was around a challenge in thinking through where the focus is. So in terms of working together, having people who are interested in these different domains of RISC-V and seeing how long comparable ecosystems have taken to develop in other ISAs and wondering kind of what RISC-V can do to support that in a shorter time period. But yeah.
Thank you. Amber, I think we're still missing voices from building community. Is that correct? All right.
We were one of the building community tables, and the big theme of our discussion was how to make it easier for people to join the community and get involved in RISC-V. And I think one of the high-level topics was, at the moment, work is very organized by, say, a specific standard or a particular area. But oftentimes when people want to get involved, it's really about what is the skill set and the kind of work that I bring to the table and that I want to do. And so if we can surface it to make it more easy to find tasks that are to do, there is this bit of a standard that needs some porting work or some modeling work or the variety of different things that need to happen, that makes it easier for people to find starter tasks and get involved in a group without having to understand all the various different things that are happening in RISC-V. And on similar lines, another theme was that there is a lot of different type of work to do in RISC-V, not just standardization work, but lots of work around software and also lots of non-technical work. And to make it more easy to find that kind of work as well to allow a wider group of people to get involved.
All right. Anyone else want to add? Okay. I'm getting my steps in today. Running around.
Well, there's also building community, and it was more from, not from a personal level, but more of a company level. And that was, it's sort of RISC-V 101, not from a architectural level, but from a community level. What is available in the community and how companies can leverage it, what's there. The tests that are there, the specs that are there, and then inside the community, what services there are, either paid or unpaid. And that was the primary thing. And this is sort of how, not from an individual level, but from a company level, how a company can contribute, learn, and collaborate.
Anyone else? Okay. Okay. Sorry.
Hi, this is the table for building communities, and there was a specific discussion, but the general idea was like if someone has experience in industry, they have been working on a very deep technology, and they would like to contribute to the community. Like, how do they even get started? So, one of the suggestions was you join the RISC-V membership, and there are special interest groups, but it is very likely that because it's a very deep technology, like let's say low power devices like power consumption, etc. How do we, if there is no group like that, so how do we maybe find an adjacent group or propose a new group? It might be interesting, but maybe the RISC-V community has not even looked at that yet. So how to get started in that point. And yeah, that was the theme here.
Thank you. Any other volunteers? Okay, so I heard lots of similar themes, even though you're all in kind of different topics, which was sort of interesting. It was making sure you have the information that you're looking for and people can find it. They can make it useful and accessible, that, you know, there's easy ways for people to enter into the community, and it's a welcoming community where there's known standards or expectations on how people participate. Does that sound kind of like the general theme that y'all heard too? Okay, so it sounds like there's a lot of things that we can all do. So here's the kicker with this is by participating, you guys all become stewards of this and get to then go out into the community and help facilitate this to make sure that those themes that you're now more cognizant of, you're helping bring people in, you know, and Halika talked about recognizing people from other locations or other backgrounds and making sure that they're involved. So maybe when you're in a discussion or a SIG, you realize, hey, so-and-so who I worked with at this other company probably is a great person to work on this too, or has a strong perspective. Include them in. You know, think about that from like, how can we be a more inclusive and open ecosystem? And by doing that, we'll probably end up building an even stronger platform and service than ISA. Any questions or comments or anything else? Was this useful? Yeah, okay.
I just loved hearing what everyone was. I'm Megan. I work at RISC-V International as the community director. And if you have any of these ideas or want to work on any of these projects, please feel free to reach out to me. My email is just Megan, M-E-G-A-N, @riscv.org. A lot of things you're talking about we're working on. We're working on hackathons. We're working on training students, figuring out ways to get students more involved. One of the questions I get asked most is, I'm interested in participating. Where do I start? We're right now building a resource page for people. We don't build those resources ourselves. So if you know of exceptional resources that would benefit students in learning more about RISC-V and continuing in their career, please send them to me, because right now I have interns scouring the internet. But if you already know what those are, please send them to us so that we're able to allow students to get involved. And you know, we have a mentorship program, so if you're a member organization and you have someone on your team that has a project that they want students to participate in, we pay the interns for you. You just come up with a project. Those applications are open right now and they close November 27th. It's a great opportunity for you to give back to the community and train the next generation. So if you have any questions about any of these, you can get me at learn@RISC-V, help@RISC-V, info@RISC-V, anything will get to me, and we'd love to have your participation. It's awesome to watch these programs grow. I have lots of resources I can send to you that shows, you know, where the students have gone, because a lot of them went from being mentees to now mentors. So one of them wrote a course for us. We're looking for individuals who want to write courses. So please feel free to send any of those to us, and it's just really cool to be in this room and hear everyone's ideas. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Any last remarks?
So with that, Melissa and I, and on behalf of Google, we'd just like to thank you for the great discussion. And so thank you, and have a great rest of your time. And make sure to hit the keynotes by 9 a.m.
Yeah, thank you so much.